Hi, I'm Glenn Robson from National Library Wales, and thank you to Alan for the kind words. We are based in Aberystwyth. I'm here today to talk about AAAF and what uses we've made of it. So this is the thing I'm going to talk about. I'm going to do a brief background of National Library Wales and show you where Aberystwyth is. And I'm going to talk about how AAAF is good for sharing, but also how AAAF, more selfishly, is good for us and the benefits we get out of it. So this is National Library of Wales. You'll notice it's very, very sunny. Unfortunately, it's not quite always like that. There's a lot of rain. We're a copyright library, and so we get a copy of everything that's published in the UK, every book that's published in the UK. But today I'm mostly going to talk about our other material, our older material, which is out of copyright, which we've digitised. So this is an image of Wales. You've got England on the far side, and we're very much on the west coast. Please come visit us. But if you do come and visit us, you'll realise we're actually miles from everywhere. We're about 3 hours from every airport in any direction. And so this has given us a real push, really, to digitise a large amount of our collection because we're so difficult to get to, so that people can access our resources at home. And so going through a few examples of our content, we've digitised a lot of manuscripts, a lot of photographs, some archives, some journals, and also our newspapers, which is our largest collection of about 1 million images. Our first collection, which we really started looking at AAAF, was something called Cynefin Project. And this is a project to georeference and transcribe the tithe maps of Wales, which were drawn in about the 1800s, and it covers the entire content of the entire country of Wales. It's developed in partnership with Clocan Technologies, and this is the interface where you can see we've got the old map on the left-hand side and the modern map on the right-hand side. And the transcription allows you to put the georeferencing allows you to put a point in the left-hand side and a corresponding point in the right-hand side. And as you put more points in the old and new map, the old map warps and overlays over the top of the new map, which allow you to search for modern place names and then see it on the old map. We went out to tender for this in about April last year, and it was just after we'd been to a AAAF conference like this. And we decided to completely rewrite the spec because the images of the old maps we wanted to hold at the National Library and send to Clocan over AAAF. We've had previous projects, like the newspapers, where we've outsourced the OCR, and it's been a real management overhead to send all the TIFF images on disks, whereas with AAAF we can keep everything locally and just send links to the images. So the old maps are brought dynamically into the Clocan website, which is hosted by Clocan, and it's done on the fly. The second part of the project was to do with apportionments, which are related to these tithe maps. And they built a transcription interface which allows you to enter the field number, the person that owned the field and the person that rented the field, and how much tithe they paid to the local church. And then because they're related to the tithes, you can link lines on the spreadsheet, lines on the table with fields on the map. And so eventually we're going to create an interface where you can look at a map and then you'll be able to trace who owned it and who paid the rent. And also gives some information of the use of the land. So the real benefits to us for using AAAF, there's no transfer of images. We didn't have to organise sending TIFF images on tapes or any of that. We just sent them AAAF images, or the links to AAAF images. As Tom said, the changes can be made straight away. So we use the presentation API to share our metadata with Clocan. So if you've made a mistake in the metadata, we can just change it and that gets updated in the website. And again, there's no colossal control of the images. If we need to deny access, they're still coming live from our servers, so we can just turn it off if we have to. And another benefit is because we've developed it all in the presentation API, it's great for sending to Clocan, but it also means we can just drop it into our own resource discovery solutions. We're also at the National Library of Wales. We have lots of content, but we don't have many academics, so it's vitally important that we share our manuscripts with other people. These are two examples. The top one we shared with Stanford and the bottom one we shared with Yale. And over AAAF, we can, the academics can import them into their own tools like TPen for transcription or Mirador, which you'll see later. If they were going to come to us, we probably wouldn't be able to develop a specific viewer for academics. They'd be stuck with a kind of public viewer, which probably wouldn't be suitable for them. So this allows them to access our content in a better way and do research. We also share content with a number of aggregators. So we share content with Europeana, which is the European equivalent of DPLA. And up until now, we've only shared metadata for things like newspapers, photographs, and journals and other collections. But now with AAAF, we can really look at sharing content as well. So they're going to take a copy of our newspapers, and they're going to be able to build an interface on top of our AAAF infrastructure. And then there's also HistoryPin, which is taking copies of our images and georeference them. And through sharing AAAF images, they can resize and crop the images so it looks best in their website. They're not stuck with the decisions we've made on the size of the reference files. And also we haven't had to deal with the TIFF or the high quality image. They've just taken the image and resized it all. So this is another example of an old viewer that I'm ashamed to show. But so this is a METS viewer. And over the years, because we've had lots of different digitization projects and funding, each one comes with a new viewer and a new developed viewer. So this is one of the older ones, which is a METS viewer. We've also got Zoomify, which is Zoomify images in a proprietary format. We've also got a custom newspaper viewer, and this particular article is about the White House. And there's quite a lot of work put in this, and then unfortunately the developer left, and so we've had to redo a lot of work on this one. And I've also got another viewer, which is the World War I content. And they're very, very similar, but again, they've become a real maintenance overhead. We lose the developers, and it takes a lot of time to create these, and they do very similar things. So we're really excited with AAAF, and that we can just choose one of the viewers that's available. And this is the universal viewer based on the Welcome viewer, which is one of the AAAF viewers available. And we're going to use this mainly to show a lot of our concepts, so manuscripts, images, paintings. We're going to use this viewer as a basis of our collections. But we're also going to use Mirador for other uses. So we're not tied to just one viewer. We are going to use probably both of them. And we are very fickle. If there's another one, a better one that comes along in a few years, we'll probably just change. And because it's all based on the AAAF infrastructure, it gives us that flexibility. So our supporting infrastructure. So we've integrated AAAF into Fedora, and Fedora is the repository that we use to hold all our digitized content. And the images are served through IIPimage, which is one of the AAAF image servers. And we've made it so that all new content ingested is available in AAAF, which allows us to do some quite exciting things. So the first example is we had to do an exhibition on the old books in the library. And one of the things we were asked to do was to create a flip book viewer. And this is the Black Book of Carmarthen, which is the oldest book in the National Library of Wales. And it's going to be deployed on a kiosk, and you're going to be able to drag the different pages as if you're turning the book. This went down to our web section, and I was really pleased to see that they went straight to the AAAF images. There was no sort of negotiation about how they were going to do this. They realized that that was going to be the easiest way, and so they've integrated it into Turn.js to be able to do Flipbook. It's nothing awfully complicated, but we are hoping to upload it to GitHub if you wanted to have a look at it. So this is just an example of somebody kind of tearing the page as they move it across. We're also involved in a project with King's College London, and they've developed this software called Kiln, which is a way of creating a critical edition of manuscripts. We're looking at particularly at saints in the Welsh manuscripts, and so we've digitized about 15 manuscripts, which is all related to this area. And the software they developed called Kiln, we're looking at integrating AAAF into it, because it's the easiest way to access the images. And there's also a possibility they want to have a look through the manuscripts, and so we might use Mirador to embed that in the website to give that sort of interface. There's also a requirement for us to show all of the manuscripts that we digitize as part of this project. And usually it would have taken us quite a while to develop a custom viewer for them to look at. But we could just throw them into Mirador and they could use that. And that was only about half an hour's work, so that was really, really useful. They're also going to be looking at manuscripts from other institutions. And if they're AAAF institutions, then we could also bring them into Mirador so they can see all of the manuscripts for the project in one place, which is a real benefit. So the National Library of Wales is also a multilingual institution. By law, we have to provide everything in Welsh and English. So the good news is that AAAF supports multilingualism. And we've been working with Digirati, who you'll hear about later, to make sure that the Welcome Universal supports multiple languages. And you'll hopefully see an example of it available in Welsh. So to summarise, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Hopefully I've shown you how AAAF is good for sharing. In examples like the MAPS project where we've worked with an external company, it's a lot easier to give them access to our AAAF images. And also with the presentation API, it allows them, we don't need to create custom connectors and we can just do the work once for multiple users. For manuscripts, it's great to be able to give these to academics and they can actually use them in their own tools rather than something we have to develop ourselves. And then for aggregators, it's great for Europeana newspapers and for other Europeana projects, and also for HistoryPin, that they can come and take our data in over AAAF and they can have more control over what they use and how they show it. And also, more selfishly, as I said, AAAF has been really good for us. There's lots of viewers that we can choose, and if we don't like one, we can change it in a few years. We're not tied down to a particular implementation. We don't have the overhead of maintaining it, because hopefully other people will maintain it for us. And then also, if we need to develop new services like PageFlip or Kiln, AAAS is a really easy and good basis for the developers to use. And then it also supports multilingualism, which is a real benefit to us. So that's me. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take some short questions now.
I'm new to AAA, so I work here at the National Gallery on the image creation. I would like to know what is a AAA image? For you, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So I think the question was, what is a AAAF image? Is that right? So a AAAF image is, the source image is, say, something like JPEG 2000 or TIFF or any type of image, and that's delivered through a AAAF image server. So that's what I kind of class as a AAAF image, is an image delivered through a AAAF image server. So for the examples I've shown here, we're using JPEG 2000 as a source image, and then we're using IIP to deliver it, and that's what I class as a AAAF image. Yeah, there is. We use Fedora to contain the data. So our JPEG 2000s are loaded into our Fedora repository. And then we plug IIP into Fedora, so it goes and retrieves the images from Fedora and delivers it that way. Other people will use other ways, but we use Fedora.
Thank you. Maybe it was a very naive question.
No, it's fine.
Useful for me to understand.
Sure, no problem. There's one at the back.
I was interested to hear if you could describe a little bit more about your experience with the annotation aspect. We've heard a lot about the images and convinced that IIF is great for viewing images, but you showed a brief snippet about annotations.
Sure. I won't go too much into it because there are other. So the question was talking about annotations and if I could talk about our uses of annotation. I won't go too much into it because I know other people have used a lot more use of annotations and we've barely scratched the surface. The annotations that we're really interested in is OCR. So we've OCR'd a lot of our newspapers and a lot of our journals, and you can class them as annotations on the images. And that's something we're really interested, possibly allowing correction of OCR through the AAAF and annotations. But annotations are a lot wider than that, and I'll leave the other experts to talk about that if that's okay. Right. Next, last one. Yeah. Cheers.